Ghostly is the suggestion of reality, blurring the lines between the physical and the augmented reality. It is the conflict between the existing and the fictitious. It confuses. It perplexes. It contradicts. It hallucinates. It manipulates form and spaces through its play on lights and shadows. It creates spaces within the absence of space and removes the boundaries that seemingly existed before. It explores the implied form, the stimulation of the visual and tactile experience. The project aims to achieve the uncanny spatial qualities and personal experience mainly through the exploration of the concept of ghostly. To study and generate the ghostly uncanny formal and spatial qualities, research was conducted to identify places where these characteristics would be found. The most exemplary source for this feature was in the film Stalker as a moving element that is experienced along with the character in the film. Through its cinematography, the film achieves this concept. Its meticulous maneuvering of the camera, selectively choosing what to show of certain spatial qualities, both disorients the viewer and fabricates uncanny spaces. The ghostly uncanny experienced in the film Stalker gave rise to reflect its physical and experiential qualities, exploring the solidity, transparency, and light of an architectural wall. The pipe frames captured the basic formal qualities, simply implying surfaces and voids without a physical boundary. Strings filled in these implied formal qualities and generated ghostly surfaces that either created or erased the spatial qualities within the wall structure. The projection enhanced the desired experience with its ability to highlight certain elements to create an interactive form that mimics physical movement. The scene that clearly captured the concept was the tunnel scene. The camera slowly navigates through the scene, passing faint rings of light, briefly breaking in the darkness of the tunnel. As the figure walks through the tunnel, his silhouette almost entirely fades into the darkness, then emerges under the sunlight. An exchange between the boundaries of the space and its inhabitants is created. The repetition of rings to tunnel, echoing of the footsteps and the heavy use of dark color creates an unsettling scene. The relationship between dark and light creates a variation of densities that will be captured through the pixelated scene. The scene chosen was then desaturated and pixelated to approximate the depth and brightness of the space in the scene. The pixelated image, which generated 6 different levels of spatial conditions with its varying degrees of grayscale pixels, were then used to determine the density of string over the form. The pixelated image was processed through a height field that saturates the spatial depth of the image, generating a 3-dimensional form from the input data of the image. Depending on the grayscale shades of the pixel, the height of the surface varied. The lighter the color, the more it extruded from the plane. The height field was contoured to extract the general tectonics of the form, and non-planar cells filled the gaps in accordance to the frequency of change in the colored pixels. To fabricate the designed form, fologram in conjunction with the HoloLens was utilized to bend the pipes in the correct angles, to ensure that each cellular component was being accurately constructed. Once the frames were bent, they were enclosed by gluing a metal rod within the cavity of the aluminum pipe using an epoxy. The individual cells were then assembled using the HoloLens to correctly connect each individual cell, gradually building up the cellular wall. Each cell were carefully considered, aligning its edges and corners to the same on its neighboring cells. To reinforce the model to its highest structural stability, the cells were tightly connected with hose clamps, eliminating any opportunity for them to slide or break apart from the tension created by the string. String surfaces applied enhanced the ghostly effect in its transparency and implied spatial qualities. Filling in the frame structure with the information given in the pixelated image, the density of the strings were also determined by the level of grayscale. In skinning the erected frame, Euler Wu's screenplay precedent provided substantial knowledge in the details of its ingenuity that would be applied to the composition of our model. Techniques such as tying knots to keep them anchored to the pipes and exploring the planarity of the string surface to envelope a bigger surface area reinforced the model and presented the craftsmanship within it. Further consideration for its craftsmanship is reflected in the loops around the cells. By creating a simple mathematical formula, the two edge connections of varying lengths were successfully wrapped with string from one end to another. Furthermore, the string was tied around the cell edge before every crossover to firmly secure it in place. Ensure that the string holds its tension consistently throughout the entire surface. Grasshopper was used as a generative tool to help determine the spacing of strings and specific attachment points on opposing aluminum pipes. Depending on the density of each cell and the length of each attachment point, we were able to quickly work out how many loops were required between individual attachment point for each unique cell. To reinforce the ghostly concept, we generated a means of skeleton mapping the audience experience and engagement with the model. The white light thrown by the projector creates a delayed augmentation of the audience's actions. The more they engage with the model or the scene, the more density and complexity is exposed by the projection.